I should also say this is a great example of where a laser cutter is a lot faster than 3D printing. I understand not everybody has access to a laser cutter, but just saying, laser cutters are pretty sweet for flat parts like this. So the basis behind this project is the fact that for the longest time, I've been saying to myself, I want to actually have a uniform survival kit, if you will, for when I go on trips either by myself, with Danielle, with friends, things like that. And there's actually been quite a lot of times where, well, I didn't directly use paracord because I didn't have it. Having rope on hand came in really handy. Case in point, when Danielle and I went out to Carson City, Nevada for the Nevada Day Parade, we strapped our chairs to a light pole using one of the kayak anchors that just so happened to still be in Danielle's trunk.
And then we have your makeshift paddle anchor tied to the post.
Along with like everybody else who's done the same.
And more recently, when we were out in Fossil Falls during a high wind warning, the anchors came in handy again, I kid you not. And we used those to try and hold the tent up during a National Weather Service high wind warning out at Fossil Falls BLM campsite. In short, I'm not saying that having paracord would or wouldn't have been a lifesaver in those situations, but it's a good example of where having some kind of cordage can be very helpful. Now, the main reasoning why I decided to make my own winder is the fact that I'm holding just about 25 feet of paracord on here, and no offense to the winder designs that are out there, but I didn't think that they were going to be able to hold 25 feet, and I also like a little bit of a design challenge in the process. So coming up with the design was relatively simple. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, but as effective as possible. So switching over to this hardboard prototype, you'll see that we have the two U-shaped areas that catch the rope. I did decide to hollow the middle out. Main reasoning behind that was mostly aesthetics, but if you had a shorter piece of cord and you didn't have much wound around the middle, you could easily wind the excess through the openings to help take up some of the slack. Also, you'll notice I put 4 holes a little bit inboard from the corners for strength. So the idea is you wind a piece of cord in through this side, around the back, and a little bit comes out this side, and then you start to wind it around. Now, if we flip over to the other side, you'll notice that I've put 2 holes on either side. The idea behind this is whatever side is closest, you loop the cordage through one side and then you loop it through the other side, and that effectively holds your rope in place. You can see on here, we have the stray end from, you could say, the end of it. And on this end, I've wrapped the paracord through this opening and then through this opening, out the back, and then I've just wrapped it around one of the nearby pieces. Obviously, it's not the prettiest, but it sure beats the heck out of trying to deal with a tangled mess of rope. Trust me, been there, done that, hate that. Now, one thing that's a little bit easier to see on this final acrylic part is the fact that I also etched in a simple 6-inch ruler on here. It's in 1/2-inch increments, but the main idea is if I needed to measure something to say I'm tracking a bug bite, or I'm trying to approximate the size of something, or I'm also trying to use a map, and maps usually have a scale on them, I can easily go, okay, so 0 point is here, and okay, right about here. Oh, okay, it's about 1 inch, so that's X number of units of distance. It can help with that. And I figure, you know what? It can't hurt putting that on there as well, just in case you're trying to measure something. Sure, I wouldn't go measuring a house with this, but you never know. Doesn't hurt. So when it came to the material to make this from, initially I was thinking of doing it in wood. This is some like 5/32 Luan plywood. Problem with that is it's pretty weak, so that's out of the question. I then thought about doing it in 1/8 inch plywood, which I happen to have a fair bit of, and that's decent, but the problem is it's pretty flexible, so that's out of the question. Thought about doing it in hardboard, but I know how this stuff goes moldy at any sign of moisture, so obviously that's out of the question. So I just opted to go with acrylic for the time being. I have thought about using acetyl or even polyamide, slang terms, Delrin and nylon. I've thought about using those, but I happen to have a lot of acrylic floating around, so I figured, you know what, acrylic is probably going to be more than good enough for the application, so let's not, go buying things that might not even laser very well. If you guys are interested in either picking up a pre-cut winder or the files for them, I will have links to that down in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you here next time on Make It with Calvin.